So, now that you have some interesting mechanics in your game, we can control things on the screen. Let's make them look good. And the best way to do that is to use graphics files. Now, the two basic kind of graphics files that I recommend are the PNG graphics file, which will allow you to have transparency, but also gives you a good trade-off for a nice resolution on your images. And the other one is for JPEGs. Now, JPEG images, we're going to focus more on like photographs. So typically your backgrounds will be JPEGs more often than not, and your actual characters, your avatars, will be PNG files. So I want to create like an interesting little simulation here. Start for a game perhaps. I'm going to do a space-based theme, mostly because it's very easy to find free graphics for that. In fact, what we're going to do is I have a ship that I've personally drawn, and I also have a space background that I downloaded from the NASA website. And if you didn't know this, any pictures that are taken by a federal government agency are automatically in the public domain. So that's one of the reasons why you might see a lot of space games by amateur video game designers, because a lot of those images are free to use. And so the image I'm going to be using from the NASA website, I'll post a link to it in the description box below. But let me go ahead and show you the two images that I'm going to be using. Okay, so this is the space background that I have from the NASA website. And then this is the image of the ship that I'm going to be using. Now you may notice there's a white background here. That background is actually transparent, and that's actually one of the reasons why I really like PNG files. You're going to notice that transparency is going to go right away, and you're going to see the background behind that ship. So those are the two images I'm going to be using. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I have this class file called images. Don't call it image, by the way, with no S, because one of the class libraries we're going to need is the image library from java.awt. And if we were to name this class file image, it would create a namespace pollution with that library, and we would not have the correct functionality. So be very careful when you're naming this. And what I've done is I've copied over all of the code from the keyboard lesson that I did previously. And because what we're going to do is we're going to control that ship using the keyboard. So standard libraries here, we have our JFrame, XY position of the player on the screen, and the left, up, right, down, and that's for the keyboard controls. And so here we set our dimension, the background color to black, although we will be putting in the background image, so there it is. And then we create our frame, keyboard input, our timer for the animation. In the update is keyboard controls to move the ship around the screen. This is going to be pretty fast, we're going to find, but you can play around that if you want. I've set my controls to the A, W, D, and S keys. Feel free to change that. And then we have the paint component method where we're setting the background to green, and then we're drawing an oval. And we're also going to be changing that paint component to draw the background and the spaceship. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to do is we're going to be storing these images as image icons. We're going to call one of them ship and the other one background. The image icon class lives in java.awt, and that it has all the functionality, so if you want to look it up in the Java docs, that's where you would find it. Now for right now, I'm just going to load the ship, and I want to show you the code. I have it on my little notepad here. So this is the code I'm going to be using. This is a function to load an image, and you'll see that it uses the URL class library, and I'm just using it in line. This is the only thing I need from the URL library, so I didn't feel like I needed to import it, and this is the only time I'm going to use it. So it's java.net.url, and we get it from it equals this.getClass, get resource name. The get class, by the way, gets the reference to the class in the folder that the Java class file lives in. And the get resource is a resource handler to try and allocate that file. And so this URL, we pass it to the image icon constructor, and it will try to load that image so that we have access to it. And then in our draw function, we're going to use this method paint icon, and the parameters here, this null is a placeholder. That's the Windows component that is in charge of drawing the component. We're going to go ahead and use the J panel. We're using the GC stands for graphics context, so this is going to be that graphics parameter that we have in the paint component method, and then the X and Y position, that would be the top left corner of the image that we want to draw. Okay, so oops. So what I want to do is we're going to go ahead and add that in here. So come down here. And we can add the function anywhere. I'm just going to add it right below there because it's nice and close. So it's protected image icon load image string name. And the name is going to be the file name. By the way, when you do this, make sure that you put your images in the folder with your Java class files. So here you see my ship PNG and space PNG are in there with my Java class files. Okay. You can put them in another location. You just need to be aware that the folder location will change. I like to put them in the same folder as the Java class files because it makes it easier to find them. So java.net.url, and we're going to get the URL of that. Okay, and I'm just going to copy and paste it. Okay. So it's this.getClass, parentheses, .getResource, parentheses, name, parentheses. Alright, so once we have that, then I can return that image icon. So return new image icon and the URL that we used for that. So this will create our image and send it back to where we want to create it. So let's go ahead and load that image. And I'm going to do it right before I create the frame, but after I've set the information for the J panel. So the first one I want to load is the ship. And I've called my ship, let's see, I want to load the image, and I called my ship ship.png. This is a PNG file. Okay. And then I want to come down to the paint component method, and we're going to draw that ship. So that is ship.paint icon. And again, I want to use the J panel, so I'm going to use this J panel. And the graphics context G, and the ship is to be drawn at x minus 25, y minus 25. Okay, so this should draw the ship on top of that circle there. So let's compile and test this. And there we go. The ship's on top of the circle. Now the circle is a little bit bigger than the ship. The ship is 32 by 32, and I believe the circle is 40 by 40, and that's why they don't match perfectly, or 50 by 50, sorry. So let's get rid of that circle, and you'll see there's the ship, and you'll notice that the white part around the edge in the square is gone, and you can see through to the background. Speaking of the background, let's go ahead and add that now. Okay, so I'll go back up to the top where we load the image for the ship. Let's go ahead and load the image for the background. And this time it's a JPEG file, and I called it space.jpg. And make sure the file name is correct. This is going to be the most common areas to misspell the name of your file, as well as forgetting to put the file in the folder. So make sure both of those things have happened. So I've loaded it, and we want to draw it. Now we want to draw it before we draw the ship, because if we draw it after we draw the ship, it's going to draw the background on top of the ship, and we won't see it anymore. So background.paint icon, this G, and the X and Y coordinates of this, the top left corner, will be 0, 0. Okay? Now, this image is outrageously large, but you'll see I can move around on it. I want to shrink this image to fit the screen. And I had to do a little research to look this up. It's not as easy to do in Java as I thought, but it's still pretty easy. So here's the code for scaling the image. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste it, and we'll talk about it in the code. Okay. So I want to do this where I load it. So I load the background image here. I'm going to paste the code in there. And so here's what we have. We have image. So here's that image library that I was talking about, the class. And we're going to get the image from the background. And then we're going to create a new image from that. That is a image.getScaledInstance. And then my screen size is 640 by 480. So I'm going to scale it to that size. And then this is a parameter that says what is the method for interpolating it. And we're going to use a smooth scale. So it's image.scaleSmooth. And then we're going to get the background back by reinitializing this image icon with that new image that we just created. So now, when I go to run it, you'll see that the image is fit to the screen now. So the whole image is shown in the new resolution. So as you can see, we have a nice little interface here. A good start to a game, maybe like a space shooter game, or you might come up with some other creative ideas. So that's how you load graphics in a nutshell, and I also kind of showed you a little bit about how you can scale the images too. So I want you to play around with this, see what you can do with it. There's definitely a lot of potential here. And remember, above all, keep designing your games. Just do it, program as much as you can, and above all, have fun.